This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1862, Listener Questions and Answers. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Ian Leatherstein.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Chris Everly. You're just a molten specimen, man. Oh.
And you got to continue to go old school when you're in the studio.
Yep.
There's just no other way to do it.
Fantastic.
Well, welcome one and all to the show. And we are here to answer your questions, listeners, as we put the call out to the Patreon and also to the Facebook for everybody to go ahead and put in some submissions for questions that they've been meaning to ask us or wanting to ask us for as long as they've been wanting to ask it.
Great idea. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you muchly. Yeah. Yep. And we're looking forward to answering those questions. But
to the best of our current ability.
Exactly. To the best of our current ability. If we can't answer a question, we apologize. I already put out there that these should not be muddled to Murd questions, so hopefully none of them will be trivia. And otherwise, we'll just do our damnedest like we usually do. So what else can we say?
Full disclosure, though, it is rather late at night.
Yes.
Neurons are frying. We'll summon the correct or accurate answers to mind if we can.
Exactly.
Our beloved Shane is not here.
No, he is not.
I'm sure he can address any questions addressed to him down the road.
Yeah.
Yes, he will indeed be here, hopefully the next time that we are in this room. And hopefully this room will be used more in the future. And we thank you at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak for making that happen, as without you, we would not be here. So we thank you so much for your continued support of the show. And you can also do old school donations over at Comic Geek Speak's website. If you do a PayPal donation, or just, listen to the show and let people know that you listen to the show, and let them listen to the show in return. So how about them answers? Or how about them apples, that is. Wow, it is late. All right. Well, in order to get these questions answered, though, we need somebody to actually ask them. That's
indeed.
Yeah.
All right. So.
All right, I'll do it.
Okay. All right. That'll do.
Thank you, mysterious voice.
We're going to first go from, this is going to be from the Patreon page, and if I pronounce your name wrong, please forgive me. This question comes to us from Cecilio Guijaro, I believe. Hi, guys. First and foremost, thank you for the years of entertainment and education you shared with all of us. Here's my question to all of you. I never heard a review of your thoughts on the Watchmen TV series. What did you think of it? This is, of course, from HBO.
Yes. Murd, did you ever watch it?
I watched like the first 4 or 5 episodes, I think, but I have a hard time watching anything streaming in any kind of rapid fashion.
Fair enough.
I always get sidetracked, and I'm working so many hours right now.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's last episode I watched was in June, I think.
Okay. I watched it in full. I adored it. I thought that it was such a good spiritual successor to Watchmen itself in so many different ways. This is by Damon Lindelof.
Of Lost.
Of Lost, but also specifically of The Leftovers, which to this day...
I know I have to watch.
One of my favorite shows of all time, and it continues to be. And I think nobody else could have possibly brought that next generation feel to it better than he did. So I loved it.
And I'm embarrassed because I've only seen the first episode.
Oh, wow.
Which I loved. So it's a show I definitely... Again, there's so many. There's like a preponderance of so many worthwhile TV shows now that I just can't fit them all in. But,
no, and I feel that.
But I know this is a show that
TV.
I know this is a show that I really should watch.
Yeah,
it's Watchmen.
Well, certainly once the two of you finish it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on an upcoming comic talk in full on what it was. I will say, prefer it to Doomsday Clock. And Doomsday Clock is its own thing. Obviously, it's completely different.
And we've talked about that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
And it took forever to come out, but when it did eventually, it's more of a DC comic than Watchmen ever was.
That's true.
Yeah. This is a next Watchmen. Like, it's whatever were to happen next in the world of the Watchmen.
Well, just from the first episode I watched, it was clear that they had captured that spirit, and I really enjoyed it. Just I have to get back to it.
Incredibly compelling characters too. I think that also really helps with the series itself. So.
Yep, I will agree that from the little bit I've seen so far, it's definitely a stylistic successor to the original Watchmen.
Absolutely,
I mean, it has a very different feel because it's addressing the concerns and the mores and the issues that play of a different decade.
Definitely,
it takes what Watchmen did with the '80s and transposes it to what is in the zeitgeist of the current decade.
And what I remember about that first episode that really was striking was, doesn't it begin with the Tulsa, Oklahoma
yes.
Race massacre
Yes,
in the early
it does.
20s,
which plays a very important
and
role
it was
in the series in general.
powerfully done
Yes,
in
it's
that.
great.
Because they captured, didn't they show the airplane and all the stuff? Like, it was really well done, and that I don't know why I didn't keep watching it. God,
Yeah.
So, yeah, all right,
Beautifully done.
The subplot with the mysterious man on the manor and his strangely identical servants.
Oh, yes.
That reminds me a lot of Zardoz. So when you get to that part, Chris,
Yeah, you're gonna love it when you get more of it, Chris. Definitely. Yep.
Well,
it's that kind of absurdism.
oh yeah, yep.
that's a retro review we have to do.
Oh my God.
God, Zardoz.
All in favor.
Yep. All right, mysterious narrator.
All right,
What's the next question?
Up, this question comes to us from Steve Souza. Thank you guys for all the great shows. You've really helped me through some difficult times in my life. Do we know when Chris's history podcast is coming out?
Thank you for the question. And by
I'll
the way,
answer that. No, Chris, go ahead.
and by the way, we really appreciate when listeners let us know how much we just listening to our show has helped them through tough times.
And
It's
if I
really
remember
appreciated.
correctly, Steve Sousa is the man who supplied us with our '80s theme.
Oh,
Yep. So
Steve. Magnificent. So I'm actively working on it. Basically, what's been happening with that is when I closed my comic shop in 2017, I realized I needed to do something else that would really fuel my my passions. I always have to be doing something. Otherwise, I just feel like I'm just a drone moving through life. So I realized that because I'd been doing this show, I realized how much I enjoy podcasting. And then I thought about, well, I've spent my entire life basically talking about history, so why not make that into a podcast? Yeah. And after a couple of years, because I was kind of experimenting with different topics, and then I realized, okay, what you know better than anything else is the Second World War. So what I've been doing for the past 2 years is essentially doing the equivalent of writing a book in podcast form about the Second World War. So I've been outlining everything I want to talk about because I'm going to be addressing essentially, well, this is kind of a loaded way to put it, but the entire conflict, but from a lot of different areas. So I just finished this past summer outlining everything I want to address. And what I'm doing now is that I'm actually in the process of typing up my Murd, you'd be honored. I'm honored. I bought like packs of bound yellow notepads.
Yes, that's just what I was hoping to hear you say.
And I filled up about a dozen of them.
Wow,
with my outlines.
But of course, you write larger than I do.
Yes, I do. And what I'm doing now is I'm now taking all those notes and plus all the different books I've also noted, and I'm now collating all that into an overall like master typed series of episode outlines. Because what my goal is, like, I've listened to a lot of history podcasts to see how people do it. Some I love, some are just not as interested to me. It depends on the way they do it. But what I've realized is that some of these history podcasts, they take a long time for episodes to come out, which I don't want. I want to be able to have them come out in relatively quick succession. Yeah. And I also realize that some of these podcasts, not all, but some of them, the people just kind of read essays, which I don't really get because I can just read the book. I don't need you to read it to me, but I guess some people like that. I just don't.
Yeah.
What I want to do is I want to do like what I do in this show, which is talk to the audience about the Second World War in terms of the way I'm going to approach it. But I want to do it in a way that everything is in front of me and ready to go. That's why I'm taking a long time. So I can't answer specifically, but I just reached a major milestone by finishing my outlining, Now I'm typing, which will not take as long. So I'm hoping within the next year or two I can start it, because once I start it, it's just going. Like it's going to be one after another.
The Comic Geek Speak podcast, keeping yellow legal pads in business for over 15 years.
So, Steve, thanks for the question. Really appreciate it. And yes, it is coming. I can't say exactly when because I want it to be right, but it'll be relatively soon.
Excellent.
Okay.
David E. Kelly used to write all of his teleplays on yellow legal pads.
Really? Huh. Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Murd, every time I use the yellow pad, I feel your power.
All right. Next, our question comes from Fred Hudson. He says, I don't know if there's a top 5 episode about this already, but it may be fun to revisit anyway, as tastes change and new material is always coming out. But what are your top 5 Stranded Island books/series? If you're in a stranded island and could only have 5 books or series, what would they be? They may be books that aren't the most popular, academic, or respected by the overall community, but hold a special place to you and can be read on multiple occasions. Because you won't be getting anywhere for a while. Thanks for the years since 2006 of comic geeky goodness.
Nice.
Thank you.
It's funny too, Chris. When we were in the car, we were wondering about how many people have been listening for since the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's great to hear someone like Fred.
Thank you,
who's been
Fred.
listening since 2006, and he's still with us.
We met Fred out at DenverCon.
Oh, nice.
I think Danny and Bill were along with us there.
Very cool.
Epic.
So the answer to the question is that there was indeed a top 5 reads while stranded on a desert island. It was episode 1713 of the podcast. I myself was on it back in 2018, and that was like the second or third top 5 that I was on with you guys at that point. But it was a great time. It was Shane, Murd, Chris, and I, putting together our reads. So I guess the question is, what would you put on it now? I mean, if we could pick one, since we obviously already gave like a 5 or whatever, like within like the last top 5 years or so that you may want to add to your list at this point.
Well, my number 1 is still Crisis on Infinite Earths, and probably always will be. But I was just thinking, just in terms of comics that I could reread multiple times or have been meaning to. I'm going to say the Oz Wonderland War.
Ooh!
3-issue miniseries from the minds of E. Nelson Bridwell and Roy Thomas and artist Carol Leigh.
Very good.
Yes,
Very good.
Featuring Captain Carrot, his amazing zoo crew, and just about every public domain Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland
Tailor-made for Murd.
Oh, absolutely.
in existence.
Can't get more murdy than that. Chris, what about you?
I'm sure I said my number 1 was Born Again. I'm going to assume.
Did.
Yeah. I think you said from the more recent, the last 5 years, right?
Yeah. This was 2018, so
okay.
that makes about the most sense.
I think I would have to add Tom Taylor's Nightwing run.
Ooh. Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking of saying that. So
and I'm saying that because I just came back from Florida a few weeks ago, and I always go to wherever we go to check out the comic shops.
Yeah.
And the local shop, the guy had almost all the issues on the stands. So I've read almost everything, and in the comic, I'll go into more detail. There is nothing better right now.
Oh.
There is nothing better than that book right now in terms of superhero stuff. Forget it.
Absolutely.
It's and Danielle, who was the Nightwing fan, said to me yesterday, flat out, "This is the best Nightwing I've ever read."
It's great.
Yeah, so I'd probably throw that in there.
This is Danny Obellis we're talking
Yes.
about here?
Yep.
Yes.
Wow.
So I was thinking of saying that.
I'm sorry.
No. Please, by all means. And I was even thinking of saying Saga, but Saga's not done yet.
It's not done.
So I can't necessarily put that on there because I would want the whole damn thing. So instead, I'm just gonna go for one that we all love and one that we immediately. Those of you who aren't seeing the image that I'm pulling up right now, you'll be able to answer that.
Can we trade from island to island? Like have set up
yes,
like an economic relationship?
We can trade from island to island. That's perfectly fine. I go with Spider-Man Life Story by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley because this to me, you want to talk about a series that it's only a couple of issues, but you get every era of comics.
And throw the Jameson special in there at
throw
the
the
end.
Jameson special in there as well. I'm sure later editions will have that as part of it. I can't think of a better book to read when I'm stranded, other than Avengers Forever, which I know was originally on my list because
It's one of. I mean, we've talked about it at length before, but easily one of the best Spider-Man stories in recent years,
without question.
Yeah,
absolutely without question. And it's just very few people get to the heart of Spider-Man the way that Chip Zdarsky did in this story. And like I said, the different eras will intrigue me when I'm stuck on a stranded island, deserted island, trying to open up a coconut. So,
another recent book I'd probably throw in there would be
If it's the hardcover, you could use it to crack the coconut.
very good point.
I think I'd throw Lazarus in there too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So,
yep, absolutely.
All right.
It's probably going to turn out that Oz Wonderland War was in my original list.
More than likely, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
It's on
Repeat myself, apparently.
It's a better copy of it, a better edition.
All right. Our next Patreon question comes to us from Timothy Riefenberg. Thanks to the entertainment the last few years. My question: if a publisher asked you to pick a series or character to revive/revamp, or create a new series for to create a new series, for who would you pick and why? Can choose your own creative team if you are inclined.
That's a good one.
it's a great one.
Yeah.
Did you say to revive a character?
To revive/revamp.
Okay.
Or create a new series.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to think of just one off the top of my head because there's so many that I feel like I've never really gotten the time of day. Android Hourman.
Oh,
That's
which I still haven't read. I
One
know
of
it's
the first
supposed
ones
to be
I
great.
thought of, too.
Yeah, I think there's so much more you could do with the story, and because he's an android, it's easy enough to just revive him, even if he hasn't been around for a while.
Oh, he's a time-traveling
That
android,
too.
no less.
Yep. So it could be from another part of his era, or somehow bringing him back. I think actually a really good writer for that would be Tom King.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, since he's already worked in so many different eras, he do a damn good job.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
I think Mitch Gerrards would draw a very good Android Hourman.
He'd be terrific. Yeah,
He doesn't look too dissimilar to Mr. Miracle.
Good point. Yep.
Great,
Chris,
great.
Chris, you got one?
Go to Murd. I have to think about it for a second.
Well,
Sorry, Murd.
it seems to me that once upon a time, Mark Waid remarked that he had a strong affinity for... I can't remember whether he was talking about Captain Comet or Mr. Terrific, like the original Terry Sloan version.
Okay.
And he said that he could easily write like a multi-issue ongoing about either one of those characters, and I would read either one of those characters written by Mark Waid.
There we go. It's a team-up book.
Sure. I mean, they're both men who are polymaths and well ahead of their time.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm also going to throw Brother Power the Geek out there. But darn it, he only got 2 issues the first time around.
Who would you have write him? That's the question.
Oh, Brother Power the Geek?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, all red. I think I just let him write and draw.
Good choice. Very good choice.
So I would do... So Ed Brubaker,
Shocking.
Sean Phillips,
Shocking.
Blade the Vampire Slayer.
Whoa. All right.
And also another one I'd like to see, and they're probably going to do it because of the movies, I'd like to see more with the Black Knight.
Yeah. We're going to get there.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Absolutely
So,
we will. Yep. Great question.
All right. Our next question comes from Bruce Wayant. I assume this has been done, but I only jumped on around 2012, so forgive me, ha ha. I'd like to hear the first comic that made you fall in love with the comic books. Alt, if you could have one superpower, what would it be? P.S. Please bring back Super Show, please.
Well, we would if we
heard stories.
Yeah. First off, we would bring Super Show back, but the building doesn't exist anymore, so that might be a little difficult. But we'll see what we can do about getting some more super zooms at least sometime.
And you never know, as we approach some major milestones the next couple of years,
That is very
maybe
possible.
there's something we could do.
Yep.
If we make it to 2 decades, I mean, then we need to do something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Wild Pig. So no, never mind. That doesn't exist anymore.
No, but we could certainly secure some kind of accommodations
certainly.
for a meet and greet.
Did anything ever move into that old building?
There's a hair salon.
It was a hair salon?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a hair salon once.
Yeah.
It's a hair salon again. But
Nice.
but you never know.
Yeah. Well, Golden Eagle.
We were on the way here. We were
still
talking about how much we'd like to have ways to meet more listeners in person.
Certainly.
Which we haven't been able to do that a lot
100%
recently.
the case. Yeah. But going back to the question, it is a great one. What made you fall in love with comics? Which book was it? Chris, you got one?
Oh man, there's a lot. I would have to say, and I've mentioned this many times on the air, probably the the power record of Amazing Spider-Man 124, Mark of the Man-Wolf.
Beautiful.
That was probably what started me.
Nice. Murd?
Well, I second Chris's observation that there have been many, because falling in love with comics is really more of a process than just a single bolt from the blue event. I remember really enjoying a couple of Looney Tunes comics that my dad picked up for me when I was a toddler at various yard sales. So that's when I first learned to love the comics medium. As far as
sales, tremendous. Diefenbach.
Yep.
As far as what got me to fall in love with comics, as for becoming an actual collector. Well, there's the famous story about Matt and an issue of Simonson's Fantastic Four and a shower that I never got around to taking. I just got so enthralled.
It's a fabled yarn.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to go ahead and say various handbooks. My first exposures to Hot Moo and finding old issues of Who's Who
love your
in
handbooks,
DCU,
Murd.
Volume 1 at the local Atlantic bookstore location in Stone Harbor. That's what gave me an idea of just the breadth and the texture of just these fictional universes, just how far they'd expanded and how much pains were taken by certain parties to keep track of the history. I mean, these weren't just random little throwaway stories about guys in tights punching each other.
Yeah.
These were cosmoi. These were universes, meticulously maintained, massively multi-character fictional constructs. And that appealed to me. That's what really sucked me in to stay.
So I started reading comics in '93. Uncanny X-Men 300 was my first ever comic that I bought.
You're so young.
Young at heart, baby. Young at heart. And bought it for the holofoil cover because clearly, it was going to be worth something someday. And it's worth exactly $250 today.
Such a '90s kid.
Oh, I know, right? But I will say, even though I was reading comics after then, and really got into X-Men for a while, then Spider-Man and what have you. Young Justice was my foot in the door.
Great
for,
book.
Really getting into the history of comics, because I didn't know anything about DC when I started reading Young Justice, and then I realized that they're a younger generation, so it got me to know more about the older generation. It got me interested in JSA from there. It got me interested in JLA. Reading Morrison's JLA itself also really helped with that. So it was a gateway in a lot of different ways. And it really got me to read more comics in the end by getting a generation that was closer to my age at the time there in comics. So I would definitely go Young Justice. Not that much of a surprise to people who have listened to me on the show before, but it's still a great book to this day. And I'm glad that it finally got the reprint treatment that it so deserved over these past couple of years.
Because that wasn't reprinted for a long time, right?
Yeah. It was very hard to find for a while.
I remember as a retailer, I was always on the hunt for those back issues because there were no trades.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, it almost felt like DiDio was purposely holding it back just to tweak people's noses.
Which is funny because DiDio wrote Superboy for a while too, so you would think he would have a more of an affinity for Young Justice, but not so much.
He seemed to have an affinity for the Teen Titans, or like the Jeff Johns volume of Teen Titans, of which that Superboy was a member.
Right. Yeah.
I guess he thought that the two versions of the team militated against each other, which is certainly not necessarily true.
Definitely. Yep. Plus, I'd also say the Heroes Reborn, was it Heroes Return or Heroes Reborn? Busiek's Avengers, that was Return, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Heroes Return. That entire line.
That's the Busiek Perez stuff?
Oh yeah. But that entire line.
Classic.
That entire line got me a whole new love for Marvel. Like the Iron Man, the Avengers, the Thor that came out of that, the Captain America that came out of that. They were terrific.
Oh, you mean the Jurgens Thor?
Oh, it's terrific.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wonderful stuff.
Yeah. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our next question comes to longtime listener from across the pond, Dr. Eamon Clark.
The doctor is in.
Yes.
His question is, what is the biggest gap in your comic reading? I.e., what's the big title or genre you haven't
Ooh,
read
great
yet?
question.
Genre. Well, there's a bunch of genres. I tend to think of my biggest reading blind spot as less a genre or a title than like a time period. And for me, it's like the very end of the 80s and the very beginning of the 90s. It's like just shortly before I started reading in 92.
Yeah.
Anything from like 89 through 91 from either of the major publishers. It's a better than average chance I have not read it.
Yeah.
I never read Cerebus. I consider that like a big gaping chasm in my life as a comic book reader.
I've never read it either, to be honest with you. Yeah, unfortunately.
I've read a little, the couple of arcs that we did as books of the month back in the days of yore.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I mean, if I were to say eras, there would be a lot because I know that I have many holes in my reading. I still need to finish Sandman.
Actually, so do I.
I've read 3 volumes and I've read some of the ancillary material, but I've yet to finish it.
Where have you left off?
It was after the Element Girl stuff.
Because we were doing a series of books of the month on Sandman. Where did we stop?
I was trying to remember that myself. When this is back in the days when Danny and Bill were involved more.
Yeah,
And Jamie was on all those.
I'll
Jamie
look in the archives.
because
as we're
maybe we
talking
stopped
here.
around where you haven't picked up yet.
It's very possible.
I know we got past the Urania Blackwell Element
We
Girl
did,
stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
I think we did at least 3 of them. I want to say.
I want to say 5.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I know
Then
we-
yeah,
we
you
stopped
guys
trying to-
went longer than I did. Then yeah. I mean, I'm wanting to, and I probably will start getting them from the library since I guarantee
It's
you.
one. I mean, it's obvious. It every bit of recognition it gets, it deserves. You definitely finish it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I just started watching the series, so I want to actually read it before there's anything that could possibly.
So it looks like
you
here,
know-
Murd, we stopped in the middle of Season of Mists.
Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, episodes.
Issues up through issue part 3.
Yeah, of Seasons of Mists.
Wow.
Yep. So that's where you ended, according to this.
2015.
Yep, episode 1533 of the show. But I look forward to diving in and reading more of it. Otherwise, other than Born Again, I haven't really read a lot of Frank Miller Daredevil, and I'd like to read more
Can you
of
believe
that.
this guy?
I can't.
to
I'm in
sink
exactly his
into it.
boat.
Yeah. So,
I've mostly read the ones that you have led us to read, Chris.
yeah,
I've
and
never
I mean
been the biggest
those-
Miller fan.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
Yep. But I mean, I read the big one. I just need to.
It is the
more,
big one.
More than that. But yeah,
So you've never read the Elektra stuff, for example?
not really. No.
All right. All right.
Yep. Well done.
Yeah, great question.
Yep.
All right.
Eamon knows us well.
Yeah.
Our next series of questions comes from Brian Woyak. I'm going to read one at a time.
Okay.
His first question: best convention moment.
Ooh. Wow. Oh yeah. That's
Okay, so for me, I can think of it right away. It's a tie. All right. I'm at it's in the 1990s. Preacher has just come out. And I don't remember what the name of this con was. It was in Manhattan. It was not like a New York con, like it was long before that. But it was somebody put on a big show in New York City. I remember where it was in Manhattan. There was
it Big Apple?
I don't think so.
Okay.
The list of creators was amazing. And John Romita Sr. was there. So there are 2 moments from that con that are like my 2 favorite moments, 2 of 3. Steve Dillon was promoting Preacher, which had just come out. It already hit. Now it was a big book. He gave free sketches to everyone in line.
Oh wow.
Rest in peace.
Wow.
So I got a tulip. Frank Miller was there. This is like the time of Sin City and so forth. So
Yeah.
I have my beat up copy of Born Again,
Yeah.
my 1980s trade. I'm waiting online, and it's my turn. And he takes the book and he looks at it and he holds it up to the audience and he goes, "This is what a comic should look like." Because it was read through, and he said, "What's your name?" And I was like, 20-something. I'm like, oh.
That's
And
amazing.
and the other great moment at a Pittsburgh Comic Con, Stan Lee, 1990s as well.
yeah.
So I have this book.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Now, this is a new version of it, another version, because the copy I had was destroyed in the flood that destroyed my first store in 1999. But I bought it again. And I brought it to him, he goes, oh, and he was Stanley, like he's so enthusiastic. I always love this cover. Like, so those are my moments.
Oh my god. I've got 3 that come to the top of my head. One, the time at the Harvey Awards in Baltimore, where I sat directly behind Stan the Man.
2 women on his
Yes,
arm,
with
right?
the two women on either arm. I imagined he said to them at one point, "I wrote Spider-Man." And that was when they were giving a Lifetime Achievement Award to John Romita Jr. long before his
Senior.
lifetime. No, it was Junior.
Oh, it was Junior. Okay.
Senior was giving it to Junior.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the Lifetime Achievement Award was, long before his lifetime was over.
Right.
So he's still got plenty more to do. But I also, at one point at New York Comic Con,
Excuse me.
this issue here, Brave and the Bold #1, I got signed by Bob Wycheck and George Perez, and it sits in my collection to this day. And that was an experience that I am very happy that I got to do while George was still on this plane.
Yeah. That seems like a comic that's going to survive future purges of said collection.
You're damn right it is. You're damn right it is, and I'm super duper happy that it happened. The third one that I would mention is when I misspelled Mjolnir at the trivia panel at Baltimore Comic-Con, because it continues to be my shame. MJOLNIR, no extra I.
At the Pittsburgh Comic-Con for years, in the 2000s, Perez was there every year. He would do sketches for, like, he would donate to some charity, but he was so gracious.
Oh, yeah.
And I got 3 from him. 2 of them I've since departed with, but I still have the Dr. Doom one he did. Just stunning.
If I didn't say it on the episode, that was Brave and the Bold #1, by the way. So, yeah, that's what I happened to get
The
signed.
2007 version.
Yep, 2007, Batman and Green Lantern.
Murd?
Oh, there's probably a bunch that I should be thinking of, but the ones that come to mind right now were, I think, both at the same New York con, actually. It was like the second or third year they did it. It was the year that we cosplayed. I remember Pants was in his underdog outfit, Brian Deemer was Captain Cold, and I was in my pariah gear. And
I was the Shadow.
Yes, Matt was the Shadow. He had his guns and everything. So I got to meet George Perez dressed as Pariah, and he commended my cosplay. He said I was the first person he'd ever encountered who bothered to dress up as this character. And he posed for the
I know that picture, yep.
Yep, because Pants has circulated it via social media. It's turned up a couple of times. I actually had a paper copy of that picture, which I then presented to Mr. Perez at Pittsburgh a couple of years later. Because, as you said, Chris,
here's a version.
Murd, what a great
of
costume, man!
Of said picture.
Yep, I'm still proud of that. I cobbled it together from an old Colonial Williamsburg puffy shirt and a store-bought hospital scrubs costume and some other odds and ends. And the other moment from that same con was when Mike Norton presented me with a sketch that the other CGS guys had chipped in, to get him to draw for me as a belated birthday present of the Mad Hatter and Bizarro communing together.
Nice.
Love it.
I'll mention on a personal note, another wonderful memory as a Pittsburgh Comic-Con. It was the first con I went to where all CGS was there, and we had only just met recently at my store. And we went to dinner, and none of you had seen me in my full role as a comedic muse for others, in terms of
i.e. butt of jokes.
And me just falling apart laughing and hyperventilating. And I remember Shane especially was like, "What is going on here?" It was tremendous.
What is with that guy?
What kind of masochistic relationship are we witnessing here?
You know what? I just thought of another one, and it's thanks to CGS that this happened. When Walt Simonson came to Super Show, and he was giving out free sketches to everybody at the show.
That man was a great get.
He's so good. Both him and Wheezy. That panel that you guys put on for the two of them was outstanding. But I have a Robin sketch of by Walt Simonson in one of my sketchbooks, thanks to Super Show. So I'll cherish that always. Yep.
I'm actually going to chime in. My favorite convention moments, Baltimore Comic-Con 2012. I was mostly a DC guy at this time, but wanted to get into Marvel. Marvel Now was just announced, so they had a Marvel Now panel with Tom Brevoort and Mark Waid. I was in the front row. Long story short, I got called on stage, sat on the panel, and got to read a black and white copy of Thor #1 by Jason Aaron and Issa Ribic before anybody else saw it, and was floored and loved it and got the whole series and from then on. And we talk about that, I do, in episode 1273, where guest Tom King comes into the studio for the very first time, and we talk about, just him and I, about the Baltimore Comic Con as though we were longtime buddies, episode 1273.
Delightful.
All right, so the second part of his question here, of Brian's question is, your most cherished comic book and why?
Oh, wow. Wow.
I'm just going to go Giant Size X-Men #1 for reasons that should be apparent.
Yeah, because it's giant size X-Men.
It is. It is that. Yes, it's probably the most valuable comic I own.
Didn't you get that at a flea market?
No, actually, my aunt.
That's right, your
who knew
aunt
nothing
got it
about
for you.
comics. Just
Right,
went
right.
into what was then my local shop, Pagoda Comics. They had a slightly shop-worn copy that they were willing to unload for like less than $100. I'm pretty sure.
Worth a lot more today, Murd.
True, whatever it's shaped. But Nightcrawler was my first favorite character, and that was his first appearance, along with the first appearances of several other Marvel mutant mainstays. So, yep, that's I think of that as the jewel of my collection.
Excellent. Chris?
All right, there's two. I have to cheat. So it's a Marvel Tales. I don't remember the number, but it's reprinting Amazing Spider-Man 128. It's about the Vulture. And I was a little boy. So this is a Marvel Tales. So it came in the late 70s. This is a reprint from the Jerry Conway era of the early 70s, Bronze Age. And I have a vivid memory. We were on some St. Thomas, some island like that. And my father reading it to me. And he did all the voices of the different characters.
Yeah.
And I cherish my dim memory of it, but that was my first exposure to like someone like, besides the Power Record, someone like reading a Spider-Man comic. I still have that specific comic. The other is a little bit older, but still a little kid. My parents, again, random books off spinner racks and like convenience stores, pre-comic shops. And I mentioned this book many times in the air, Master of Kung Fu.
Oh, yes.
Fantasy of the Autumn Moon, which we talked about on Back to the Bins.
Yes,
we did. Is it 117? I always forget the number.
I think it is.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But
Because I know you personally provided me a
yeah,
copy of that issue.
it's
Jean Day, right?
yes, Gene Day. Even as a kid, that book made me realize what the possibilities inherent in the comic book medium. It is still, to me, one of the most breathtaking books I've ever seen. And thanks to a mysterious benefactor, got me a page of Gene Day art, which hangs proudly in my office.
If only we were ever to find out who that mysterious benefactor is.
Maybe I have the name in my trousers. I don't
The
know.
long and short of it, we'll figure it out someday. Well, so one of my dad's shadiest friends, and I love starting it off that way, gave my father, when I was a kid, a decent amount of his comics. Like just
Do they have blood on them?
no. Some of them looked like they'd been through a war zone, but then again, that could just been him as a child.
Right.
I forget which issue of Fantastic Four was one of them, but it was one of the earlier ones, but not like super duper early. But issue 20 of Daredevil,
Ooh, the owl.
featuring the owl, there were two copies. One in decent condition, one in not so decent condition with like a ripped cover in there for some
Interesting.
reason. I have no idea why. But that is the oldest comic to this day that I
Daredevil
own,
20.
is Daredevil 20.
Did you still have both copies?
I think I may have gotten rid of the lesser one, but the
Okay.
other one I still own. And I also have a CGC slabbed copy that I got from, I think the original one I got from eBay, and then I slabbed it myself of part 1 of whatever happened in A Man of Tomorrow. That I adore, that I still have it. I also have slabbed Ultimate Spider-Man #1, and I think the first appearance of Ultimate Venom. The only times in my life I've ever gotten books slabbed, and I may just crack the cover someday, but either way, they are beautifully preserved for now. I think they were all like 9.2s or something like that, so not bad. Yep.
All right, and the third part of Brian's question is, If you could build a super team with any 4 or 5 individuals from any publisher,
Oh no.
who would you pick and why?
So that would take 87 years to answer. So I'm just going to go off the literal top of my head. I think there would be a very fun team consisting of, let's see, from Marvel, I'm going to go Ms. Marvel, as in Kamala Khan. DC, I'm thinking of like stretchy characters.
Elongated man.
Elongated man
Yeah.
from DC. I might throw Plaz in there, so Plastic Man and Mr. Fantastic. I just want a team of stretchy people. That's it.
The Elastic Four.
Exactly. Oh, excellent. The Elastic Four. Print it. It's happening.
There is no off position on the Genius Switch.
Go ahead, Murd.
I'm still
Okay.
forming mine mentally.
Oh, boy. That's a really good question, but that's a tough one.
Well, I don't know who's Christopher Priest written. So,
Okay, so Deathstroke,
Black Panther,
Vampirella.
Falcon.
He did write Falcon, yeah.
Yep. And just call them the priests.
Excuse me.
Oh man.
Okay, I think I got it.
All right.
right.
Good.
Okay, the Spectre,
Okay.
Solar Man of the Atom,
Nice.
the Molecule Man, and from the Archie MLJ hero universe, Mr. Justice.
Okay.
4 nigh omnipotent beings. 2 of them just kind of avenging angel figures who use their vast cosmic powers just to punish people, and 2 others who are more demiurgic and use their powers to create and reshape reality.
I dig it.
I would do probably a street team. So I'd have Shang-Chi, the vigilante, like the black bodysuit vigilante from DC,
Yeah.
Blade. What do we say, 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Maybe Richard Dragon
Ooh. There you go.
and Daughters of the Dragon.
Beautiful. I like it. Whole lot of dragons going on.
All right, this next question is probably more geared towards Chris. It comes from Christopher Murin. Any tips on selling comics to a dealer, either in terms of lowering expectations or pitfall/red flags to avoid?
Okay. Granted, I've been out of the game now for 5 years, but I'm sure some things never change. He's saying selling to a dealer?
Any tips on selling comics to a dealer?
Okay.
We still get occasional comments on your grading video on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Positive, I hope.
It's easily our most watched video on all of YouTube.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I hope people are getting something out of it.
Yeah,
That's-
absolutely.
Thanks, Pants. That was a lot of fun. The first thing I would say is be realistic. So if you're selling a collection, odds are, unless it's really, in the vault type stuff, that a lot of your books aren't worth that much, especially if they're more recent. So what I would suggest is, if you want to get rid of your collection in general, just accept the fact that you're going to get a bulk price for it from a dealer, because a dealer has to make, obviously, a substantial profit on what they're selling. So be realistic, and also really do your homework. Go through your collection. You might have books in there that maybe it's some weird esoteric book that has some kind of significance attached to that. It might be worth more than you realize. Go through everything. Make sure you're not, if you're going to sell in bulk, for example, that you're not giving away so that it actually has significant value attached to it. You might also want to say, okay, I go through my collection. Maybe I have 10 books that are like wall books or like really have some value. You may want to sell those separately from everything else, and then be able and try to negotiate a better price with the dealer for those books. Because, like, for example, when I bought collections, I would say, all right, granted, I was honest. I would say, okay, I've pulled out these 10 books. I'm going to give you however much percentage of guide because they're worth more. Everything else I'm giving you like 10 cents a book because I'm going to sell them for 50 cents or $1 or something like that. So be realistic and really do your own research on what you have. And I think if you start with that, you're in much better shape. Because again, some dealers are going to be very upfront with you and say, "Look, this is worth nothing," or "I don't even want these," or "I'm not going to get much for them. So I'm going to give you like a small flat amount for it." Others are going to be complete, like right out of The Simpsons, and like try to, finagle them out of you with that and rip you off. You got to know what you have. And you got to be realistic.
A fingernail touched this one. I am not purchasing it.
Good imitation. And also, and I'm not as well versed in this now because it's more recent, but because, and you would probably know this too, with the movies now, there are certain characters in books that suddenly skyrocket in value.
Echo, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to know when to get into that bubble and then jump out of it before like it crashes because those books really don't command value in the long scheme of things. Mm-hmm. So you got to, if you want to play that market, which I never really did, you need to know, like with real estate, when do I get in?
Know
when do I get out?
And know when to fold.
Exactly.
So,
or you could be really, really lazy about it, like I was, and sell everything on Craigslist.
I bought some of your collection, didn't I?
You did buy.
Yeah.
I gave you almost all New 52 because that's how little I cared about it. But I do remember. I think I may have actually sold you my Batman #1 New 52, and I think you made some profit on that if I remember correctly.
Oh, absolutely.
But otherwise, like I really just gave up after a while because it is so hard to do. It really is to go through your collection and be like, okay, this is the one that means something. This is the one that doesn't. This is the one that means something. This is the one that doesn't.
And you're making a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up. In that, you have to also be honest with yourself and like, how much do I want of my time?
Exactly.
Do I want to invest in this process? Yeah. How much do I want to maximize the value of my collection, or I just want to get rid of it? Mm-hmm. You just want to get rid of it. Some dealer is going to give you some bulk price for it if they want it.
Oh yeah.
But like. The other person in this room who's unnamed has a collection that demands attention.
Yes.
Right? And that you have to go through it and say, okay, this is not worth something, but these are, and I can get more for these.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Ian's got a great point. You really got to decide how much time do I want to put into all this.
I started collecting in the 90s, enough said. Like 3/4 of my stuff is worth nothing. I'm completely aware of it.
Same here.
In the 18 years I was retailing, most of the collections that come to the door, the bulk of the stuff in there is junk.
Yeah, and 100 of them were covers from X-Force #1.
Yeah, but there's there's stuff that like, oh wow, they have this, and it's. I mean, the dealer should be honest, but not all of them are.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why it's incumbent upon the collector to really know what they have.
Definitely.
All right, this next question now geared towards Murd. Comes to us from Kirby Orton. I'm fascinated by Murd and his time bubble. First part, how many comics does he own?
Ooh. Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Kirby, that's a question I endeavored to answer for myself during the pandemic. Unfortunately, the pandemic wasn't long enough for me to fully enumerate my collection. I tried. I got sidetracked by Stone Harbor and other stuff and never finished. But I did determine, and I announced this figure on the podcast a while ago, I determined that I had 12,000 comic books that I haven't read yet.
Wow.
And so just extrapolate from that how many I might have total.
I want to note how proud I am to be on a show where in some way we can lament the fact the pandemic wasn't long enough.
It's still going on.
You've heard of silver linings, right? That's the chromium lining.
I love this man. Wow.
Next part, what year is he currently in his reading?
We were just talking about this, yeah.
May 6th, 2006.
Okay.
52, week 1, baby.
Yes!
Oh.
Okay. All right. You're making me look it up. Let's see. What was our first 52 episode here?
52 month 1.
Yes, 52 month 1. We'll look that up.
Yeah,
but,
we weren't doing them on a weekly basis, although we could have.
Yes.
Next. Again, it's the same thing. What is the oldest / original print comic in his collection?
Good one.
That is a good one. I want to say I have somewhere in there just something that I claimed for my very own while we were cleaning out the studio. I think Lance Kaiser might have sent it to us at one point. Remember him? Graham,
Oh, yes.
old man of CGS fandom.
Indeed.
From the things he sent us, I think Star Wars #1 for one thing. But also, there was this ancient issue of Boy Commandos from the 40s.
Nice.
Issue number 2.
You think it was
I
number
remember.
2?
I remember you showed me that.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
yeah.
right.
Somehow he remembers this better than I do, but I'm pretty sure I took that one home, and so that probably is the oldest comic I have. The second
Simon
oldest would be
Kirby.
like
Wow.
I have an issue of Tom and Jerry from like the 50s. That's
Is that Dell?
I think it would have been, yeah.
To answer the question, 52 month 1 was a CGS special. Not even a numbered episode back then. June 14th, 2006. 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 11 seconds of 52.
In the pre-pants era. Okay,
Still
and
means
finally here, what are several titles that he cherishes above all others in his collection?
Several, no less.
Means more, at least more than one.
Well, yeah. Right. Several. Okay. Well, the Excalibur, Volume 1. Anything involving Davis and
So
or
fun.
Claremont, though preferably Davis.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean. I always say the Infinity War miniseries was what really pulled me into comics as a collector, but it was that series that convinced me to stick around. And the aforementioned handbooks, of course. Who's Who. I mean, those aren't really comics per se, but they're attendant materials that I do cherish. There are some other runs that I'm really fond of. The Hour Man series from the late '90s. We're all fond of that one. The Grant Morrison and Howard Porter JLA relaunch.
Definitely.
Fine
Good
comics.
stuff.
Yep.
Thunderbolts.
Oh, absolutely.
Original run of that, and a couple of subsequent runs that were.
Talk about comics that are soon to be worth a little bit more money. Yep.
That's certainly true, and I've got nearly every Thunderbolts series published.
Yep. Nearly, because there's one part that neither of us really care about, and that was that bad reboot.
Oh God.
Attempted rebrand. That
Yep.
just. Secret Society of Supervillains from the 70s,
Of course.
Freedom Fighters from the 70s, the brief Joker run from the 70s,
Oh, wow.
Shazam from the 70s.
We could go on and on.
Are we up to several yet?
We're up to several.
That is definitely several.
Kirby does end up. I know these are several questions, but any insight we can get into the mind of Adam is appreciated.
Yes.
Fun fact: I was also born on New Year's Day but he was born in 1980.
How about that?
Okay.
Exactly 1 year removed.
Wow. Well,
I will remember that fun fact.
excellent. Excellent.
And he will remember that fun fact. Next up, this question comes to us from Robin Faines. Gentlemen, thank you for the years of entertainment and education as well as this opportunity. Which villain from any fictional entertainment source scares you the most and why?
Good question. These are great questions.
That is a terrific question.
Is it any medium or
Any
to comics?
fictional entertainment source.
Okay.
So that includes movies
Yeah,
and
television, whatnot.
Yep.
Oh.
I think I'm just going to straight up say it. That stupid clown from It. Because talk about a character that can be incredibly creepy. I mean, the original 80s one, it was campy creepy, but the remake movies, part 1 and part 2, creepiest clown you'll ever meet in your life. And if you want to be afraid of clowns, do not see these movies.
We all float down here.
Exactly. So I'll go with that. Nothing beats a creepy clown.
Everybody loves a clown, so why don't you? Chris is clearly still
cogitating.
pondering, so-
Yeah, he's contemplating.
I'm tempted to say the coachman from Disney's Pinocchio.
Ooh.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes, the personification of stranger danger.
Yeah.
Abducts little boys and gives them enough rope to let them figuratively and literally make jackasses out of themselves. Because I don't think any product of popular culture traumatized me as much as Disney's Pinocchio. And it's coming to light in recent years just how easily traumatized I was.
Murd, all the years I've known, I'm impressed how well you've recovered from all these traumas you experienced
Yeah,
as a child.
I know.
From fictitious characters.
We Murdos are a resilient lot, I guess. But yeah, I'm also, for whatever reason, thinking of a character from comics that has really frightened me just within recent years. Mad Jim Jaspers, as written by Alan Moore in his Captain Britain run.
Yes.
Because here's a guy who has almost unlimited power to warp reality to his wills, and he's a fascist. Well, he's a far right, Thatcherite '80s politician, which is a pretty terrifying thing in its own right. But he's also completely bug nuts insane, and he just does such a fine job of hiding his utter madness behind this respectable facade. He's a little like Norman Osborn in that regard, except he's got like the power of Mixus Pitlick behind him.
Oof.
And it's kind of a terrifying combo, just taken from the dark imaginings of Alan Moore. What a character with this political leaning and power set could accomplish. And seeing the duel he gets into with the Fury, which is like this Terminator-style alternate reality super cyborg that can adapt itself to counter any superpower.
Yeah.
So when he encounters a being as powerful as Jasper's, and just the conflict those two get into shakes the heavens. So yeah, I'm sure I could think of other characters from comics and beyond that frighten me more than that, but that's what comes to mind tonight at this late hour.
That's tough for me because even as a kid, I always really enjoyed the villains in a lot of things.
Yeah.
I know what that says about me, but
Sometimes they're more compelling.
yeah, I think I can think of one that frightened me then that doesn't really frighten me now. Does that count?
That's fine.
Yeah. So, all right, the movie The Howling
Oh my gosh!
from 1981, which I watch every summer and love. It's just a great, fun werewolf movie.
Genuinely terrifying.
But as a kid, because I saw it not in 81 because I was little, but not long after on HBO or something. Is it David who played the Doctor in
Robert Picardo.
Robert Picardo? So he plays the serial killer / werewolf in The Howling.
Okay.
And the scene where he first appears, but you don't really see him, he's in like a peep show, and he's in the shadows coming behind the protagonist, the main character, the woman is the news journalist, and his hands like appear on her shoulders.
Oh, right. Is this where she's going? She's in the office.
She's in the peep show, and the movie's going, and he's behind her.
Oh, okay. That's not even the scene I was thinking of.
Are you thinking of later in the movie when he becomes the actual werewolf?
Well, no, I'm thinking of the scene where she's doing her reporter thing, and she's rifling through a filing cabinet.
That's later on, yeah.
Yeah, and there's the ceiling fan.
That's the other reporter.
And silently, noiselessly, we just see this big hairy hand enter the shot and take the file from her hand.
Yep,
And then
and
the jump scare.
That's the other reporter, yeah.
You can just feel the hairs on the back of your
That's
neck
a good
standing
pick,
up.
Murd. Yeah. As a kid, that was really frightening.
That is an excellent, good pick on your part.
You
Chris.
bet.
I can remember Matt and I watching that movie on TNT, I think, in the early night. He was in Stone Harbor for the weekend, and I think it was Penn and Teller hosting some of their favorite good horror movies. And that was one of them. Them with the giant radioactive
I love
ants
them.
was one of them. Yeah, so we were both kind of affected by that at the same time.
I can imagine like Murd running a journal like a childhood traumatized by pop culture.
I wouldn't be the first.
But he recovered. Like, it's great.
You know what just came to me? Comic character that I'll mention real quick. The Shadow King has always creeped me out.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Because, I mean, talk about almost like a Nightmare on Elm Street style character that, that can attack your dreams, attack your mind. Like,
and that reminds me, another character for the X-Men who really creeps me out and still does is Proteus.
Yep.
Yes.
See,
Proteus is really creepy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so just take what you're thinking about Proteus and apply it to Mad Jim Jaspers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It's
you
kind
hate
of the
body
same thing.
horror, too.
I can't deal with it.
Yep. But also talk about a toothy grin. The Shadow King, when he manifests, like that toothy grin. Ooh, it's nah. Bad as clowns. No.
As a side note, I'm not sure we're even halfway through these questions, guys.
We're not going to get to the end of them, so that means we'll definitely do a second one of these at some point.
We can do a series of them. So those of you who didn't,
3 more questions from the Patreon. Maybe stop at the end of the Patreon questions.
sounds fair.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I apologize to your Facebook.
No, please, by all means.
Okay. This next question comes to us from Ralph Warner. It's somewhat similar to an earlier question, but he says, "Gentlemen, what is that one big hole in your comic book reading of a highly regarded creative work that you, for whatever reason, have just never gotten to?"
Well, there are a bunch, I'm sure, between us. We've already mentioned how
What is
many
that
of us.
one big hole?
You know what else? I mean, both of us have a Stan Sakai hole.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never read.
In my car right now, I've got that recently released Usagi Yojimbo Origins.
Nice.
I've never read Usagi Yojimbo.
Yeah.
And I'm going to correct that myself
Excellent.
within the coming months here.
That's another big. Besides
Yeah.
Cerebus, that's another huge gap for me.
But you know what I'll say? And Deemer somewhere is slapping me.
Yeah.
Bone.
Really?
I've never read Bone. Yeah.
I'm actually taken aback.
I've never read Bone. I've maybe read like maybe one issue as a free comic book day thing, but I've never read.
You're
more
gonna
than that.
you're gonna love. Bone.
I'm sure I will.
Wait. Oh, let's stop for a minute.
Yeah.
Have you read Strangers in Paradise?
I have not.
I never finished it either. I've got like the first 2 volumes.
I'll be honest. I'm not much of like a romance comic guy.
Yeah, there's more to it than that. It just kind of it veers into crime.
I'm sure it does.
My friend,
and lots of other.
you have
things,
assignments.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Comics reading should not be.
Oh no, absolutely. Well,
you know what I mean.
Unless it's an assignment for the show, and then it counts.
Well,
But,
you see, that's
yeah.
how I read both Bone and Strangers in Paradise.
Well, there you go.
Because it was assigned at some point.
Enough said. Yeah, I will. I do want to read Bone at some point.
Oh, you'll love
And
it.
I might even have a volume sitting on my shelf. I just haven't gotten to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's on mine.
Yeah. And we haven't finished Sandman either. So
That
it's-
too. Yep.
I'm going to say Great Darkness Saga. I don't know why that came to mind, but
You know, I bought that and I haven't read it yet. I bought like a used copy because I know it's supposed to be great.
just Legion of Superheroes lore in general is just a big gap in my reading.
Mm-hmm.
We were asked about blind spots, or it was Eamon. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah. Legion.
Episode 741, Book of the Month Club on Bone, Volume 1.
Well, there you go.
And of course, one of my personal favorite segments of CGS, I believe 6 separate interviews we did with Terry Moore,
Ooh, yes.
going over each one of the pocket books editions of Strangers in Paradise.
Okay.
That goes in the archives.
Yes.
I don't think I was in any of those.
Good
actually.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, I will keep it under. I will take it under advisement. I will definitely do that.
Yeah, we had Jeff Smith on to talk about Bone too, didn't we?
You know, I'm not sure if he was on the episode or not. Well, you made me at some point, but in the Book of the Month Club, creator Jeff Smith and color artist Steve Hammaker join us to
Okay.
discuss. Okay, anyway, yes, go 741. Go look it up yourselves.
Okay.
All right,
Terrific.
so I have reached the penultimate questioner here.
That
This
word.
comes to us from Caged Eye. What is Murd's favorite Genesis album from the Peter Gabriel era?
I love this question enormously. Yeah, I just yesterday took Trick of the Tail out of the player in my car.
Oh wow.
But I think every one of them has at least one track that I love, but I'm going to go with Selling England by the Pound. Because that's got Firth of Fifth on it. It's got Dancing with the Moonlit Night. I think the runner-up would be Nursery Crime if he's interested. But yeah,
Okay.
Selling England by the Pound is what I'm definitely going to go with. Oh, The Cinema Show. That's probably my second favorite Genesis song overall.
All right, he does actually have another part here of the question. Jacques Tardy has a few comics dealing with crime and also a few comics dealing with war history. These are both topics Chris has expressed interest in. What experience has he had reading Jacques Tardy?
I've never read Jacques Tardy in my life.
Is he
There
the
you
one? Is he? It was the War of the Trenches.
Quite possibly, which was a CGS Book of the Month Club episode way back when. And let's pull that up here.
And I didn't read it at the time,
It
even
was
though
the
I
War
was.
of the Trenches, episode 8.
I've heard of it. It was the War of Trenches. I haven't read it though. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the Tardy line of books.
All right. Well, that's got to go on my list.
Yep.
Yep, I can loan you my copy.
I'd love to borrow it. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yep, I took it out and read it like last year for Memorial Day.
I mean, the artwork and the style are stunning. Just
Yep,
looking at it.
it's about World War I, and it's in what they call an unflinching portrayal. Certainly doesn't do anything to glamorize warfare.
Good.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Yep.
All right. And our final question tonight from Patreon comes Mark Orenberger. Hey guys, over the last year or so, I have returned to collecting comics as a man in my early 40s after not collecting since my paper route money. Preteen years.
Wowee.
I'm still trying to figure out how I want to collect. What to buy in monthly floppies, what to buy in trade from my shelf, what to
boy.
get strictly digital, and what to just hope my local library adds to its collection. How do you guys make these decisions?
Oh, wow. This is an excellent question.
It is a great question.
Sounds like an episode's worth.
It very
That is
well
an
might
episode.
be, and we're going to have to bank that when we have more time to think about it. But I think immediately my thought comes to mind on what do you like? Like what type of what type of genres are your favorite genres? And then from there you can build your collection from that. Like if you're super duper into crime, Brubaker would be an excellent place to start. And his line and everything he's ever done with Sean Phillips. So just make a list and track that down. If you like more comedic books, maybe something like Dan Slott's She-Hulk might be your bag, or something along those lines. Also, publisher. Like, what publisher were you into before you stopped collecting? Like, was it DC? Was it Marvel, or what have you? And that'll also help you. I'm sure there's lists online of like best runs of the last 10 years or something like that you could easily find that would help you fill a gap like that. But it just depends on what do you like? What is your favorite thing to read, and then roll from there.
I would certainly concur. I'd also say that when I was younger, it was more about Wednesday, I'm going to get every character. Like you buy a ton of books, and then as you get older, you become more. At least for me, I became more discerning. And for me now, it's really more about specific creators.
Right.
Yeah,
And I don't really care which character they're doing, but it's the creator I'm following.
definitely.
Like I love Spider-Man, but until now I haven't read Spider-Man regularly for years because I just wasn't that interested in what was going on and who was involved and so forth.
Yeah.
So for me, it's definitely more creators. In terms of format, I still get a decent amount of floppies each month through DCB service just because I still enjoy that experience. But I'm more about adding trades to my library, like getting books that I know I'm going to read over and over and over again because I love them that much. And maybe I experience them first in a run of floppies, and then I get trade. Or in some cases, like I love everything Garth Ennis does, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I'll buy the floppies because I just want to read them, and then I get the trade for the library, and I just get rid of the floppies.
Yeah.
So
Plus, it also depends on, are you actually looking for physical copies, or are you just looking to read?
yeah, because then you just go online.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't have to carry anything
Unlimited
around.
subscription.
Yeah, Comixology Unlimited, Marvel Unlimited, DC Infinite. These are gateways into so many different comics these days. So and there's if you get a Comixology Unlimited, you get a bunch of different publishers that way too. Like they have Boom stuff, they have Image stuff, they have DC, they have Marvel, all that stuff right at your fingertips. So tons of choices out there. Whatever you're in the mood for, really. Yep. Murd, any additional thoughts?
It's the question boggles me. Just to go
2003,
what is
2006.
What's
Yeah.
basically the 90s straight to present, and how to catch.
Yeah.
You have just to take advantage of the resources that are available to you, especially the free ones. If I were in your shoes, I would probably be haunting the previews catalogs or the
absolutely.
online equivalent, looking for volume 1 trades of various series, or just the Marvel's Epic Collection, which tends to hit the high notes of a character's history.
Epic Collection is an excellent
And
choice.
did you mention the library?
I didn't, but thank you for mentioning.
Because if you have a good public library system and you want to try a lot of different creators or characters or genres, usually, like I know my hometown, the library is really well stocked, and maybe you want to I was late to Tom King's Batman run.
Yeah.
I just went to my library and got the trades.
That's how I read his Grayson run. Actually, was through the library.
So that's like, especially if budgeting is an issue, a good library system will accommodate a lot of what you're looking for.
Yeah, I don't know where he lives, but I know like I would be nothing without the New York library system, whether it be Brooklyn Public Library or New York Public Library. So many things are there, and you can hold things at your specific branch if they're not there. And many other libraries do exactly that. So, like, even if your specific library doesn't have something, ask them to put it on hold, and maybe it's in the system, and they'll be able to
Interlibrary loan.
or interlibrary
Yeah.
loan. Exactly, another way, a great way of doing it. So,
Good questions.
terrific.
And great work by the questioner, gang.
Oh, absolutely. Nameless questioner. Thank you so much for coming on.
The check's in the mail, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right in the back pocket of your corduroy.
Exactly. Yep.
And we made it out to nameless.
Yes. And we will be getting to those.
And that's great because now Shane can join us for the other questions.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Shane will be there for the Facebook. I may even make a second thread so we can have plenty banked, and we'll do this regularly with the patrons as well, and with the Facebook, just so we can make this a regular thing every couple of months.
And thanks for the questions and the kind words of support.
Yep. So those of you who didn't make the deadline this time, you've got another chance.
Yes, absolutely, and we thank you so much for submitting in the first place. It's great. It's great to see what's on the listeners' minds every now and then, one way or another. So. There we go. Excellent. And right before the next day chimes, with 5 minutes to spare, we are done with this marathon of recording sessions here, and I'm very, very glad that we were here for it.
Brethren, great to see you all.
It's been an absolute pleasure seeing everybody in person.
Yeah, this has been marvelous.
Yes, it has. Yep, a little bit of DC too. And patreon.com/Comic Geek Speak as a reminder. We thank you so much for everybody who did go in there. And those of you who are patrons, we might have something special coming in the pipeline. Not gonna spoil it in any way, shape, or form. But you may have more reasons to be a patron soon. Let's just go ahead and put it that way. But thank you so much. Patreon.com/Comic Geek Speak for all that continued support. And now I need to press some buttons and be Shane. So
you're pretty restrained in your Borscht Belt tonight, buddy.
I was in a very, very good mood, and for some reason that stopped me from making corny jokes, and I don't know why. But the web address one more time is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. So we have a voicemail 267-702-6642. Follow us on Twitter @ComicGeekSpeak, Facebook.com/ComicGeekSpeak for the Facebook. And you can follow us at the Comic Geek Speak Supergroup as well for postings and what have you. It's thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com if you want to join our forum community. I'd like to thank you once again for donating to the show. We really do appreciate it. And we would not be anything without you. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. As the Superman theme plays for 2 seconds and gets replaced by the CGS theme. Letters. You've got letters. You've got letters. Letters!
The time is 11:57 p.m. with partly cloudy skies and 78 degrees.